So in this first video, I'll be chatting to quite a wonderful lady, Dr. Cecile Wendling, who came directly from AXA's head office in Paris. She's the head of foresight. Her job is to say, what does risk look like in 2030? She's got amazing insight on what are the new kind of risks that could happen in a circular economy when we're called to collaborate more, share things more, reuse things differently. But the great news is that companies like AXA are actually thinking through how they can help us manage these risks. And also, what is the role of risk and finance in the circular economy? Cecile, firstly, I'd really like to thank you for coming to Australia to the Powering the Change to a Circular Economy conference. I'd really like to know more about why a global powerhouse like AXA is interested in the circular economy.
Yeah, for an insurance, you see, the circular economy is raising new questions. For instance, most of the time, we will insure owner of a car, but if people move towards car sharing, who is to be insured and what needs to be insured? And this is actually a good example because at AXA we have developed a partnership with BlaBlaCar. It's a French car sharing company, and anyone who just go on the platform and click to travel then is covered. A second challenge really is that we tend to insure the first life of a device, and it's very difficult to understand how can you insure a second life, a second different type of life of a device or a machine. So this is also a very big challenge. And I think that beyond the insurance challenge, we also have a role to play as an investor. So AXA IM, so our investor branch, is investing in circularity capital, for instance, to make sure that SMEs that really are moving ahead on this new topic get enough money to make a difference. So if I had to summarize, I would say new insurance products and new investment strategies. And that's what we do at the moment.
Okay, so the circular economy really presents a business opportunity for AXA.
It's a huge business opportunity. Actually, it's a future in a way, and this is why we are getting ready for that. And I also think that we must pay attention to some risks that could also come up. So we have an emerging risk team, and they are focusing on new types of risk, for instance, coming from recycling of materials. So we had the famous example of paper recycling, where we noticed that the ink inside the papers was recycled in the new type of recycled paper, and this created health risk. So we are also very concerned that we need to have this as an innovation, but we need to make it right. So we really need to pay attention that we are not creating new emerging risks.
And so understanding where that risk comes on upon a complex supply chain as well, when things are moving through a lot of different actors.
Yeah, so we focus on, like, for instance, a recycling process where this could create emerging risk, but we also focus, safety at work. I mean, it could create new risk for the people involved in the supply chain. Like, I don't know, if you have a biomass farm, for instance, it could create like gas emission. So we really think that we need to be ready to ensure circular economy, but also it means that it needs to happen in the right safety and the right process.
And what about the investment side of things? What are some of the things that AXA is doing as an investor to actually encourage the circular economy to happen?
So what we do, and this is the first example I mentioned, is what is called impact investment. So we will look for the right places where we think that the circular economy will have an impact. So example, circularity capital. What we'll also do is try to stop investing in places where we think it's not sustainable. So, for instance, we will really pay attention to carbon. We will pay attention to not to invest in, tobacco and so on. So I think there is two modes of action: impact investment and stopping to invest, de-investing in very dangerous.
So back to the impact investment, what was the example that you talked about? Circularity index?
Circularity capital.
Circularity capital.
Is AXA IM investing in this fund. And actually we're in close contact with them because, they are a very interesting place to know what are the best SMEs working in the circular economy. So some SMEs based in London, for instance, are very, very forward-looking. But the thing is, it's a very fast-moving environment. So at the moment, we have followed a lot about the European Union, but maybe, being here in Australia, I realized that we need to open up to what's going to happen here. It was also very interesting to learn about China and circular economy in China, which for me was a totally new world that I discovered coming here. So I'm just thinking that China, India, Australia, it's going to happen here too. So now maybe we'll need to broaden the scope of our horizon scanning when we work about circular economy and where to invest.
Fantastic. So are businesses that are nervous that they can't get banks to invest in their business models that are a bit different, we can maybe give them hope that some banks and insurance companies are starting to open up a little bit to look at some different sort of disruptive businesses?
Totally. And you know, for an insurance, you really need to have long-term investment strategies because you need to make sure that all the premiums you collect will be there in 10 years, 15 years when the natural catastrophe will hit. So for us, finding the right spot, which is like really sustainable type of investment, is quite important. And we are very involved in the high-level working group at the European Union on sustainable finance, for instance. So this is definitely something that connects quite well with what's happening here in the conference.
Well, you've been in South Australia for about a week now. What are some of the key things that you think we can do here to make a circular economy really start to happen?
I would say 3 things. First, raise awareness. Actually, that's what you do with this conference. But you know, I talk to people like in a cafe or in the wine bar and so on, and they have no idea about the circular economy. So raise awareness will be the first thing to do, so that people realize, as when they are consumer, they can make a difference. Second thing, I would say it's partner. So partnerships are so important if we want to move ahead. So this is why the example of AXA and BlaBlaCar I think is great. And third, I think there is so much research that we could do, for instance, to use big data to learn more about second use of materials. And so at AXA, we have AXA Research Funds, which is money dedicated to fundamental research. And I think there are still a lot of fundamental research that will be needed in the coming years if we want to move ahead on the circular economy.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Cecile, for coming to South Australia for the Powering the Change
Thank
to
you
Circular
to have me
Economy
here.
Conference.
Really.
It's been really lovely having you.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks.
you.